but I want to make sure that we do continue this process, and thank everybody, the folks that have dialed in that are attendees. Thanks to staff. Catherine, thank you for making all this happen. And I guess I should probably announce that this is being recorded. So anyway, just so folks know that. But I'll be listening and lurking, and thank you, Shamli and Jose, for getting this going.
Yes, absolutely. So Ken, let's see, just so that we know the protocol here, is the host muting everybody until it's time for them to present?
Yes, okay. I have everyone. It should be muted at the moment, and all of the presenters have the capability of unmuting themselves, but I will make sure you're unmuted and have the capability to share your screens when it's your time to present.
Okay, thank you. All right, looks like, all right, good morning. I'm assuming you all can see me. I've dropped off my Hollywood Square. So good morning from Catherine. I wanted to mention who we have here, if I'm doing it right. Obviously, Walter's already here. He's already spoken. Thank you, Jose. You're in the background giving us our IT support. We have Chris Wells from Fairfax County DOT. Greg Potts. Who is Greg with? I'm sorry, I don't know Greg.
Hi, I'm with Washington Metro.
Okay, wonderful. I have seen you before. Michael Cooper's here. Stephen Welsh. Bruce Wright. I can see a BW on there. Marcia's here with, and Tom is here. Okay, wonderful. And I know that I don't know how we can indicate until later who is dialed in. It doesn't show up as an individual name. We can deal with that, I'm sure, for any kind of minutes that we're keeping.
Catherine, it's Walter again. So it looks like we have 8 folks that have dialed in. 4 of them have signed in with their names. And
okay,
so I don't know how you want to get those.
Well, I'm not getting the, oh, yep, there it is. Okay, when we get to that point, okay, I see. Oh, this is so much fun. I'm learning new things. So we have, if you have a question or if you do a chat, make sure that you include your name in with the question. We decided this morning probably the best way to do it is to go to the presenters. If you have a question, instead of raising your hand up, we want you to send it via the chat. And then I will read it out since we're being videoed. No one at home who's watching this on video can see that chat function. So I'll have to let's questions to a dull roar. When the presenter is making their presentation, please, if you have questions, would you write them down and then for yourself and then ask them at the end of their presentation so that this will proceed in an orderly fashion. And that's frankly what you will normally do. At the end, we will be asking for comments from, as we normally do, from member comments at the end. So let's let the presentations go. We'll take questions if there are any in between each of those, and then we will move on as we normally do with comments. What I'm not going to do is the around the room, which I normally do at the end to see if you have a new issue. So I'm going to leave it up to you to put a chat question in there. If you had an issue that's not on the agenda that you want to discuss at the end, please put that in there and we'll try to deal with it. So first of all, thank you all for participating today. This is our normal for, who knows, at least another 30 days. We've learned something new. I want all of you, when we leave today, to remember to stay safe. Are there any, just right in the beginning, are there any introductory remarks that anybody needs to make that before we get into the agenda from the standpoint? Walter, is there anything that we need to know as respects the county or the state right up here at the beginning?
No, I don't think so. Just, yeah, I think let's just dive in.
Okay, we'll dive in then. So who is the first presentation would be done by Fairfax County DOT. Tom, who should be the first presenter? Or Tom, is he dropped off?
No, so I think I can't unmute him at the moment. Hang on a second. My apologies. I'm trying to see if I can As A&R, I'm trying to figure this out.
Because Tom's calling in.
Yeah, so I'm going to see if I can unmute all and then mute. Okay. I'm gonna go through and mute you guys all.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom, you should be on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. This is Tom Bashadny with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation. There were a number of questions about the what's happening with the Fairfax connector right now. So I wanted to kind of explain to everybody kind of where we are with the Fairfax connector. So back on April 11th, we made a service adjustment. And unlike what some of the systems did where they kind of cut everything back to Saturday level of service or Sunday level of service, we took a much more strategic approach to it. So we looked at what routes, where ridership still exists on our service. And of course, ridership is down significantly across the system, but a lot of the ridership is down on what I would determine as express routes. The local routes that, for example, run around Reston or that connect between our various activity centers still actually have quite a bit of ridership on. So rather than go to just a Saturday service or a Sunday service, we looked at where the ridership was, and on a number of routes, 37 of them actually, of our 90-plus routes, we're still operating regular weekday service. And the reason we're doing that is to ensure that the people on the bus can have adequate social distancing on the bus. We want to make sure there's enough capacity so that people can spread out on the bus. Some other systems have seen actually packed buses, and of course, given the virus situation, that's something we want to try and avoid. So in the Reston area, the 950, 951, 952, 980, and RIBS 1, 3, and 5 are still running regular weekday service. So just what everybody would expect to be running on Wednesday is running on Wednesday. In the Vienna area, which is also part of the Hunter Mill District, the 401, 402, the 461, 462, 463, 466, and 467 are still running regular weekday service. And then in the Herndon area, the 937 is still running regular weekday service. And then there's another group of routes that we put on Saturday service. So the ridership wasn't enough to continue weekday service, but it was better to have a Saturday service level and we could meet the demands. And there are quite a few routes in Reston that fall in that category. So that would be the 505, the 551, the 558 and 59, the 574, and then the 981, 983, which run out to Dulles Airport and the Udvar Hazy Center. RIBS 2 and RIBS 4 are also on a Saturday service. And in the Vienna area, the 605 running down to the Fair Oaks area is on a Saturday service. And in the Tysons area, actually, the 423, which circulates in Tysons, is running on a Saturday service. The remainder of the routes are not operating right now. So for Reston, those would be the 507, the 552, 553, 554, 556, 557, 585, and 599. In the Vienna area, it would be the 422, 424, and 432. And in the Herndon area, it would be the 924, 926, 927, 929, and 985. So where do we go from here? You know, we're starting to see a little bit of reopening in some areas, and so we're trying to assess whether or not we go back to full service or if we actually supplement service on the routes that are currently operating regular weekday service. So we're in a lot of discussions right now trying to figure out what is our next step. We don't think that it will be a three-stage reopening as Metro will be doing, but we do think that there will be probably at least one step back before we get to full service. So we'll be continuing to assess that. We'll see how quickly Fairfax County moves through the reopening process overall. But our goal really is to match the service with the amount of ridership that's out there. In order to protect passengers and drivers, we have shifted to what's called rear door boarding for most passengers. Obviously, if you're in a wheelchair or disabled, you can still board at the front door. We have suspended fares so that people aren't congregating by the fare box right near the driver. And so that will continue. We're also requiring, and the governor yesterday actually required it for all transit systems in Virginia, to wear masks on the bus. That's to protect the passengers and also the drivers. Masks have been shown to be one way to minimize transmission of the virus. And so we have also updated our cleaning protocols for the buses. And so there's a whole bunch of enhanced cleaning that we're doing. We're doing daily disinfectant of what we call the touch points. Those are the places that people are usually grabbing onto, like the bars, the railings within the buses, steering wheel for the driver. All of those are getting disinfected every day. And on a weekly basis, we're fogging the buses with a disinfectant so that it's a high-pressure spray that is used to disinfect the buses. And then we're also doing a deep cleaning on about a monthly basis, so the entire bus gets cleaned from, top to bottom. So we're continuing to do what we can to allow for safe operation and safe travel on our buses. Now, one of the things we will be doing is we're going to be putting in shields for drivers. So there'll be a plastic shield between the driver and the fare box, so that whenever we do begin collecting fares again, that there'll be a separation between the drivers and the passengers. So in the meantime, we just encourage everybody, certainly if you're sick, please stay home. Nobody wants a sick person out in public right now, so please stay home. If you are coming out, please wear a mask. Please practice social distancing, particularly on the bus. There should be plenty of room to spread out. Please avoid those seats that are right close to the driver, just to allow them for some distancing as well. Continue to wash your hands. Avoid touching your eyes and your nose and your face. And then also, just if you need to cough, and that's normal, we have to do that. Cough into your sleeve, cover your cough so that you're not spreading anything around. So, Catherine, that's a quick Fairfax Connector update. Obviously, I'd be happy to take any questions at the appropriate time.
All right, I do not see any questions in the chat, but I'm going to ask the host if you see any that for some reason didn't pop up on mine. I haven't seen anything since Tom's chat at 8:11.
I don't see any other questions right now, Catherine.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So that
Sure.
is that's the bus update. What about capital bike share and the other projects? Who's going to present for that?
So Chris Wells will be going through that.
Okay. Tom, was there anything else you wanted to present on other than the bus route updates?
That's what I had for today, but I'm happy to answer questions at the appropriate time on other topics.
Okay, thank you. All right, Chris, I think that's your opportunity.
Okay, so first of all, can you hear me? This is Chris Wells, Fairfax County Department of Transportation. On Capital Bike Share, I have two items to go over, just a general update on how the system is operating during the COVID pandemic, and then also our plans for expansion in Reston. So let's see if I can share a screen correctly.
You may not be able to yet. Hang on a second.
Okay. I don't see the little thing up top.
Yeah. For some reason, having trouble pulling you up. Okay. Oh, there you are. All right. You should be able to share now.
Oh yeah, it's this thing here.
Did it pop up?
Okay. Yep. So, boom. So the first graph you see is the comparison of our ridership year to date, the black line versus the yellowish line. Trips are of course down, but that's a system-wide thing. We're actually doing better than the rest of the region. Our trips are down about 43%, whereas regionally the Capital Bike Share trips are down 80%. The next slide I have shows what we see is happening. So hopefully you can see that slide now too. No, let me double check.
We can see it, Chris. It's a bar graph.
You can see it. Okay,
yep.
Good. That's the casual versus members. So what we're seeing in Fairfax County is our members rides are down. That begins as the taller bar chart. The one on the right is the member ride of each month. But then the casual rides are going up. And so we believe that, of course, as people are staying at home and then looking for ways to get around, I guess I should mention, Capital Bike Share is a form of transit. And however, it's an individual form of transit. So you're not in an enclosed bus or metro car. So we seem to be seeing that ridership is shifting from our regular commuters who, of course, aren't commuting to casual rides. And then the last graph I have for the region is just showing how the trend is down, region-wide. So the entire system has seen a hit, and of course that affects everything. So nothing to be unexpected. We are also encouraging our riders to not ride if they're sick, to wear a mask or gloves if they want, and then also the bikes are cleaned on a monthly basis as they are taken in for service. So that's where we are ridership-wise. In Reston, we've been planning an expansion, so hopefully you can see this map that just popped up on my screen. The Reston system was actually our initial system that we launched in the county. The existing Capital Bike Share stations are shown by the little cabbie symbol, which is the little rectangle with a bike in the middle of it.
Chris,
I'm not seeing your graphics. The same thing that happened yesterday when you were trying to have two at once.
Yeah, okay, so here.
If it's a different application, you're going to have to stop the share and then reshare them.
There you go.
Right.
Whatever you did yesterday worked.
I can't find where that is anymore.
So if you hover to the top, you should be able to stop the share.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and then let's see if I... Close all the PDFs. But I lost my map. Okay. Okay, let's start over then. So the Capital Bike Share system in Reston, along with Tyson's, was our first system. Reston was the first one we planned. The existing Capital Bike Share stations are shown by the little rectangle with the bike in them, the cabbie symbol. They're mainly clustered around the town center area and the serving the Wheelie Metro Station area, although there's one up the north side of the lake. The expansion we've been planning is with federal money, and it mainly expands north and south of the existing system. So the stations with the stars, or the locations with the stars, are the proposed stations to expand the system. We're currently in the procurement phase of the equipment. There was a delay. They're manufactured in China, but we still hope to have those come on board later on this year. So with that, that's the information I have for Capital Bike Share, both system-wide and in Reston. If anyone has any questions.
I don't see any questions coming up, Chris.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that, go back and close that, and then move on to capital projects. So, 100 mil projects, and share. Okay, so we have the capital projects report from our report to the Board of Supervisors from February. The first one on the top of the screen, actually Ash Grove Lane. We've had some community interest in it right now because there's a lot going on in that stream valley with the stream restoration. We have a trail project, a sanitary sewer project. So we're actually in the process of convening everybody together to talk about the overlap and maybe some efficiencies to minimize the impacts to that. So that was going to construction. It was scheduled to go to construction now, but it is currently being discussed. Let's see if I can do page down. Hey, look, it worked. Moving down to another project of interest, Fox Mill and Pinecrest. That's a traffic signal intersection project that the community has asked for. We've continued to work with VDOT on that and have identified funding to continue with the design phase of that, which will give us then our cost estimate for being able to fund it fully for construction. So that is moving ahead. From a pedestrian point of view, I haven't seen it myself, but according to this report, the Glade Drive walkways, which connects the intersection from Colts Neck across Reston Parkway to Freetown Drive, that should be under construction. And then, of course, the biggest projects that you're probably seeing in the 100 Mill District right now on Sunrise Valley. And there's lots of Sunrise Valley, so sorry, I'm scrolling down the screen. Lots of Sunrise Valleys, there it is. Both the north and the south side of Sunrise Valley, from Soapstone to South Lakes. We've built a new sidewalk on the south side, which wasn't there before, and we're improving and widening and making better intersections of the trail that's on the north side. So that's sort of the highlights of some of the projects in the 100 Mill District. There's, of course, lots going on. There's 19 pages of these project descriptions in 100 Mill District. So that's 3 times 19, 57 ongoing projects in 100 Mill District. But if anyone has any questions, I can answer questions.
Okay, I don't see anything coming up on the chat, but I had a quick question. Because a lot of people ask this of me, the construction projects are outside, therefore essentially socially distanced. The COVID has not had much of an impact on doing our walkways, or has it on the construction days?
No, construction is actually one thing that is continuing. So the construction workers do sometimes have to work in close proximity. So they are, there have been some construction projects in the region, more like building projects that have had some slowdowns or some temporary stoppages. But no, mostly construction has been able to increase because traffic is less. So they're able to do work zones during hours that they weren't previously allowed to, or when they're doing their work zones, they don't have as much traffic to deal with. So construction is actually something that has benefited from the reduced traffic.
Excellent. Okay. That's what I was thinking. I just wanted to make sure the participants realize that if it's already entered the construction phase, it's probably staying on schedule or maybe even getting ahead of schedule. Is that possible?
It's possible.
Okay, but if it hasn't reached the construction phase, then there are probably delays because business isn't as going on as usual from the standpoint of planning, or am I misstating that? Because I know staff is telecommuting and.
It's actually moving ahead. In some ways, we're actually more productive. For instance, we're doing our plan reviews now electronically rather than big giant sets of engineering plans. So, things are transmitted to people's computers directly. It's not the same as rolling out a giant set of plans on your table or anything, but we're really, as far as my staff and the plans we're reviewing, we're continuing, and our design division, we're continuing at the same or even a better pace than before because there's some efficiencies in things being done electronically.
That's good to know. So it's not necessarily an 8-week delay because government is continuing to work.
Right. I do see a question about a crosswalk that I don't know anything about, I don't think.
Oh, goody. You see the question and I don't.
Okay, so there was a question from Lynn Brown, and I misspelled her name. I apologize. I was typing quickly. About the removal of the crosswalk on Sunrise Valley at Milburn Lane, and it may not be for you. It may be something that maybe VDOT can answer.
Or is that where the townhouses are going in across the street or something? It's possibly it's a developer.
It's actually near the Herndon Monroe Metro, and so I think one of the crosswalks that had been there that was unsignaled was removed, and so she had a question about that, whether it would be put back in because it has access to wetlands.
Sure, I just pulled it up on my phone, and there was a crosswalk there. It's not a project of ours.
Okay.
So and VDOT typically does not remove crosswalks unless there's a problem with them. But if there's development activity there, I would suspect that it's something to do with road work that the developer is doing. That's something I guess that you all and VDOT can follow up on.
Great, thank you.
Chris, I do have a question. This is Bruce Wright.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, do you know when the segment that's missing on Sunrise Valley on the north side, just east of Reston Parkway on Sunrise Valley, there's a deep goat trail there. It's near the International Center, Reston Heights. It's been missing forever. I mean, there's never been a sidewalk there. I know it's on the plans and it's funded, but I just didn't know if you knew when that might be started or completed.
Yeah, flipping pages here because there's so many Sunrise Valleys. That project runs from Reston Parkway to Soapstone and includes most of it is going to be a trail to serve bicyclists. However, it gets very tight there as it approaches Reston Parkway, so we're doing everything we can to squeeze something in there.
Well, I hope it can be done before Metro opens because there's a lot of people that are living there now in the Vi apartments and Reston Heights, and they don't really have a good way to get there.
I'm checking our status report actually has to be determined, so that means we have not even established a schedule for it. So that means that the answer is no, it will not be done before Metro opens. But we're ballpark, we're in the final design decisions, and so that still puts us, a couple years out for utilities and construction. but it's
Well,
not
that's
that.
unfortunate because that's a terrible crossing. At least now there's a crosswalk on the north side, but there should be a bridge or some other crossing there, but that's a whole nother issue. So, well, thanks for the update.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't see, wait a minute, I don't see any other questions. Do you? Does anybody see any other questions? I think you can go on.
No, I think,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, there are no other questions.
Okay, Chris, did you have, Chris or Tom, are there any other discussion points from Fairfax County DOT?
I think the other thing that I would mention is starting on Friday, we're going to be closing a lane of Tyson's Boulevard in Tyson's essentially from West Park Drive to International to allow for active recreation and walking and biking to allow a little more space than you otherwise would have on the sidewalk. So the details of that will be coming out later today, but wanted to let people know that that project is coming to fruition, and we'll have a little bit more room for people to spread around in Tyson's. It's a pilot project, so we're learning a lot from this and see what lessons we can take forward.
Okay, thank you.
That's great, Tom. This is Bruce. Our group, Fairfax Alliance for Better Bicycling, has been urging the county to do that in all the districts. Unfortunately, it's only happening in one, but we really appreciate that effort on the pilot project. Thanks.
Okay, any further questions for the Fairfax County DOT staff? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to VDOT. Yes, no? Chat now? All righty. I'm going to move on to VDOT. Make sure you unmute yourself if you're going to make a presentation.
This is Steve Welch from VDOT. I'm not going to make a presentation, but I will speak to several things. First, thank you, Supervisor Alcorn, for having me here today, and Shamali and Jose and others for helping set this up. Just wanted to touch on a couple projects that we were asked to speak to. One is the Hunter Mill Bridge over Colvin Run. First of all, our projects like Fairfax County continue to move forward in all phases of project development, practicing appropriate social distancing requirements. But we are moving forward with design, land acquisition, and construction, as many have seen going about the area. On the Hunter Mill Road Bridge over Colvin Run, this project is to replace the weight-restricted one-lane bridge over Colvin Run. We have posted a presentation online that was done back on May 13th. After working with the community and the supervisor and others, continue to progress the project design forward. During this time, we are willing to accept, of course, comments on the presentation that you can find online. The comment deadline is June 12th, about a few weeks away. Similarly, and I know that Chris spoke to it briefly, we are also working moving forward on the Fox Mill Pine Crest intersection. And that one has also been posted online around the same day. And it also has a comment deadline of June 12th. So both those projects and the respective types of projects that they are, we continue to move forward. We're at the point now where we're getting input from the community, can do so, as I spoke of on the line there, review the presentations for both those projects. And after that, we'll continue to move the projects forward. The Hunter Mill project is scheduled to go to construction next spring, taking advantage of the beginning of the construction season, and a very important project for us as well as the others. One other project that we wanted to speak to is the Route 7 corridor projects. In general, project is moving ahead on schedule, if not ahead of schedule, in some components of it. The design is largely complete, as it was scheduled to be. The noise analysis was completed, and the noise barrier plans at this point, which have been worked on independently but yet together, are now being integrated into the construction plans. And as we speak, the right-of-way acquisition has been underway and will continue to go underway through 2021. The utility relocations, which in some respects are somewhat of a construction project within a construction project, continue and will continue through the summer of 2023, working with all the various utility companies. And the construction is on schedule for completion in summer 2024. One other thing I wanted to speak to was the paving map. Every year we put out the paving plan for the construction season, which for our paving projects runs from basically April through about November, December of the year. In March, we put up the paving plan on site on our website. That paving plan shows those roadways that will be either repaved or will be extending the life of the existing pavement either through through latex, slurry, or chip seal type projects. And this year we also added some cases where we're doing isolated patchwork on the projects. The map does show when you click to it, it has different colors for work that's scheduled, work that's in progress, work that's completed, and in a rare case, some that have to be rescheduled, which only happens maybe a few times in a year for various reasons. But you can click on the roadway and you'll get information about that particular road and what's being done. And we do this every year around this time, around March, where we make the map available. Each set of roadways that are going to be repaved are planned 1 year at a time because conditions do change. Some get worse than expected, so they move up in the list, but that website is available online. One other that I wanted to speak to is, as part of paving projects, we always have some pavement markings to make. Obviously, if we're doing a repaving, then we're milling the paving. We are then repaving it, then we're pre-striping it and making the marks, and then redoing all the pavement markings. On the other projects where we do patchwork and other types, we do pavement marking replacements in kind wherever it's been disturbed or has been impacted by whatever type of project that is happening. But another type of project that we do on occasion is what's called a road diet and operational type improvement, where we see an opportunity to repurpose, if you will, the roadway that in its current use to make it more efficient and safer. And one of the projects that we recently did was the Wheelie Avenue from North Shore up to Inlet Court. We had a lot of positive comments about it. I know there are also some concerns, but I think some of those will hopefully also will subside as users get more used to it. That project basically takes the northbound 2 lanes and converts it into 1 lane northbound from North Shore up to Inlet Court with the proper transitions, with the main goal of providing the left turn lanes at both the intersections as you head northbound. And that's to provide the turn lane bays to make it safer for the people that are stopped, that are looking for oncoming cars, and have a gap time to make the turn to go into the neighborhood. And it equally works for those that are also coming out. They have a little more ability to see that and a little less movement to make over and make the turns. The 1 lane that got striped out also provides down the median area, if ever needed, the opportunity for Fairfax County Police to have a place to provide speed enforcement if necessary. But overall, the change that we've made. We're noticing some reduction in speed, which is also one of the goals, was hoping that this would also help, but it also helps with the sight distances in both directions without, I'll say, causing any problem with the existing roadway capacity. So we do an analysis of the traffic movements down to the signal, both directions, and evaluate whether it'll have any impacts on the roadway in terms of capacity and usage, and felt that was a good candidate for doing this type of work, and it seems to be working out quite well. I don't have any others to report on, but would be glad to answer any questions on as well as I can on these or any others, and certainly we can follow up afterwards with any other follow-up questions after we're done with the presentation today.
Okay, I don't have any questions showing up in the question and answer, but I didn't see the other one didn't show up quickly either.
Okay.
I think we'll just move on. Do any of the other participants have a question for Stephen? No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Oh, yes, I do have a question. You were indicating that the Hunter Mill one-lane bridge and the Route 7 widening and the paving and striping plan are all online. Can you mention the quickest way to get into your website and then what they're looking for to get to the next step?
So all of those projects are available online. I do know that also the Hunter Mill District homepage has both the Fox Mill and Pinecrest, as well as the Hunter Mill Road Bridge over Colvin Run. So they can the links are provided there as well to access the presentations for both those two projects and information on how to make comments and where to send your comments to. Route 7 project is also online. You can find that through vdot.org, through our website. It's connectroute7.org. That's online to look up just about anything on the entire project that's happening. And what was the other related question, if there was one?
The paving and striping plan. What is the title for that so they can find it?
Okay. Yeah. So that's also on the VDOT. It's the statewide, the 2020 statewide paving status map. And certainly you can Google it if you'd like, but it's also can be found on virginiaroads.org, where we have a lot of different maps and links. And you can go on there and filter it to things like turning on just Fairfax County roads or even just areas within. So, okay.
Alrighty.
This is Shamli, and I'll just add in that there are links. The links to many of these presentations will be added to our website over the next few days. It'll take a few days for them to be added in, but by next week you should see all of the links on the Hunter Mill website page, the transportation website page.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Steve. The next presentation will be on WMATA. There, Greg, you.
That's me. Thank you. So I'm going to do my best here to share the screen first, figure that out. I think I have the option. So bear with me.
Shamli, you need to make Greg presenter.
Let's see here. Okay.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, I'm working on it. Is anybody seeing anything yet, or it's loading up?
Not yet.
Okay.
There it is.
Wow.
Okay, great. Hey, success. Okay. So hopefully I can scroll. Okay. hang on a second. I'm trying to figure out now how to scroll to the next slide. No. Hey, Jose, do you know how do I scroll to the next slide within? Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. Can you see that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, yay, hooray. Okay. Thanks, everybody, and good morning. So we got through the technology part of that. So I'm Greg Potts from Washington Metro, and thanks for the opportunity to give a short update about the Metro Platform Project. A few of you have probably already seen these slides. We did a Fairfax County Town Hall last Thursday evening with Supervisor Alcorn and Supervisor Alcorn. And so many of you, these are the exact same slides from that town hall, so I'm going to run through them very briefly. So the first slide here, many of you have heard about the platform project. We announced the details of this back in May of 2018 for the first phase. And the first phase, you might recall, was the 6 stations in Virginia south of National Airport, and those now have completely reconstructed platforms. And really what it's all about is safety and passenger amenities. So you can see on the graphic here the before and after. This is one of our stations in Alexandria. I don't have to really say a lot to explain how the concrete here is completely deteriorated. It's falling onto the tracks. You can see the before and after. It's a nice contrast, and it's a much needed safety improvement, of course. And besides the platforms, wanted to mention that the project uses the opportunity to enhance the customer experience. So there's a complete replacement of the tiles. They're now slip resistant, which helps during rain, of course. There's new LED lighting. There's larger displays. There's new shelters. So it's not just about the platforms. The stations are also upgraded as well. So just a really quick mention of phase 1. There's a good graphic here. It's probably hard for you to read, but there's some good sports analogies here. There was a complete rebuild of 7,200 feet of platform edges last summer. And for perspective, that is the equivalent of 20 football fields. So that's kind of interesting. And we provided 2 million shuttle bus trips last summer, and that's enough to fill Nationals Park 50 times. So that's kind of a fun little sort of explanation to give some perspective of the project and all the work that was completed. And just like last summer, we're going to be updating the region on this summer's work and how it progresses. There's actually a blog that's within the website where we're going to be providing updates, I believe, every 2 weeks. That's going to show pictures and things that are happening as far as the construction progress. So regional coordination, we've been coordinating with the region. You can see all of these icons up here, all these logos. On the phase 2 project, we started our coordination in December when we announced the plans. There's regular communication among the stakeholders. We've got monthly calls that includes Fairfax County and Connector. And in particular, we have the NVTC, the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, is assisting us in the coordination with the region. And you can see all the various groups up here. We have, I believe, on the stakeholder list, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 people. They aren't all on the calls every month, but they're on the stakeholder list, so they get all the information. So station code, so here is the meat of the presentation. So what's happening, and it started last Saturday, so on the 23rd, it's essentially 2 things going on. It's on the Orange Line. Metro is going to completely demolish and reconstruct the platforms at 4 stations. And those 4 stations are Vienna, Dunloring, West Falls Church, and East Falls Church. So that's the first thing that's going on, and that was always within our scope. That was the plan the entire time. There was, as everyone is aware, there was an expanded shutdown zone that was announced about a month ago. And so now what's happening is all of the stations to the west of Ballston are now closed. And one thing that allows to happen is it allows MWA to be able to work on connecting Metro Rail to the phase 2 stations. So what that means is phase 1 to phase 2, it's called the tie-in work. It's a lot of software work. And originally that was planned to be take place over a series of 13 weekend shutdowns. And so what this does is it allows MWA to be able to get this work done more efficiently. And so they're going to be getting that work done this summer. Okay, so the rail service information, as I mentioned, it's going to be all the stations. Here's the map. So it's everything to the west of Ballston. That's the 4 stations on the orange, as I mentioned, and the 5 new Silver Line stations. The trains are going to begin and end with service at the Ballston station, and the orange line is going to run from Ballston all the way to Maryland and New Carrollton. There is going to be no Silver Line service. And I did want to mention Silver Line service. We did want to, because we have got a number of questions on this, of course, something to mention. So we are going to prioritize finishing the platforms at the East Falls Church station. And the reason is because that is the station that obviously runs Silver Line service through. So to the extent that we can complete East Falls Church as soon as possible, that helps with the ability to potentially restore the Silver Line as soon as possible. And then second, of course, MWA is getting their tie-in work done for phase 2. So if those 2 things can happen, then we're going to attempt to open up the Silver Line as soon as possible. You know, we've obviously talked to a lot of stakeholders on this, and we know how important it is, in particular the business community. So that is very much on our radar for this summer. All right, so this is all of the bus shuttle options. There's a good graphic here, and it shows the hours of operations for both the weekdays and weekends. There's going to be 3 shuttles. There's going to be an Orange Line local, so that's going to stop at Dunloring, West Falls Church, and then Ballston. And then there's going to be an Orange Line Express that runs directly from Vienna all the way to Ballston. On the Silver Line, there's going to be a local that stops at Spring Hill, Tyson's Corner, and then goes to Ballston. The shuttles will not be stopping at the Greensboro, McLean, and East Falls Church station. This is due to the system-wide closures because of COVID-19. So these are 3 of 19 stations that were closed about a month ago. So we're going to be, I think, reevaluating this, looking at those particular stations, those 3, and then also the rest of them that are closed as we work in the future toward the reopening of the system. And we have a recovery plan that's also going to inform that. So we're working with the CDC and with the state and the local and the federal officials. So there's going to be more on that. But as of right now, the service that started on Saturday, there is not going to be any stops at the Greensboro, McLean, or the East Falls Church stations. And just a really quick note on the headways. So on the weekdays, you can expect the service on the buses to run every 10 minutes, and on the weekends, every 15. And that's a level of service that's actually better than the current rail service, because rail service right now on the weekdays is every 20 minutes, and on the weekends about every 30. So it was important to make sure that the service was strong from the beginning. And just a quick note, we have, over the weekend, we didn't have any major issues. I talked with Jim Hammery and some other planners. So as far as I know, so far so good on the shuttles. There wasn't a lot of ridership yet. So just a quick mention here, some of the fixed routes. I know some folks from Fairfax are here. We mentioned some of the Fairfax connector routes. Of course, a lot of this is impacted by COVID-19. So for example, the routes that are mentioned for Fairfax connector are not operating right now because of COVID. We have some impact on our routes that are mentioned here, and so does OmniRide. So these are essentially the routes that are in the corridor that can help, but there's, of course, some impact that's happening because of COVID-19. So we just wanted to mention some of the fixed route service, and these are paid routes that are an alternative for customers this summer. Okay, so just wanted to mention the reason why we're doing this work. So it's an expanded shutdown. It's really, it's about, in the beginning when we envisioned the closures, there was, of course, no envisioning that we would be closing the Silver Line. The original plan included only closing Vienna, Dunloring, and East Falls Church, but there needed to be a revised plan. And really, it was about safety. It was about limiting the exposure of the frontline staff and contractors. And the closures also mitigate delays to the capital program and minimize inconvenience to the public when riders return. So, for example, with the Silver Line Phase 2 tie-in work, that was going to be done over a series of 13 weekend shutdowns. So this allows that work to get done more efficiently. And then finally, just wanted to mention ridership. So just for some perspective, it's really historically low. We're down in the corridor and system-wide about 95% on rail. And we get this question a lot. So as ridership comes back, as I know we're going to phase 1 now, in Northern Virginia on Friday, I believe. So as ridership starts coming back, we do have the ability to ramp up ridership. So our bus planners say they're going to be very flexible in the ability to ramp things up in the event that we get more ridership back. So that's an important question. It's scalable and we can meet demand. All right, so just wrapping up here, this is our note on our communications timeline. So we began coordination back in December. On the 11th, we had a big stakeholder briefing for everybody. We announced service alternatives in March, as listed here, but then of course on April 23rd, we did the expanded shutdown area. And there was a lot of information that went out on that, of course, press release, website, blog, social media. We've been using Nextdoor as well, kiosk screens. And so now we're obviously into the shutdown phase of this. We've done a lot of work. Just to mention that, you know, we've had to sort of pivot. The outreach that we had planned has had to kind of flip because we've had a lot of in-person outreach that was scheduled. There was open houses that were scheduled. We had 3 open houses that were planned. And we had a number of pop-ups in the stations. We had community events. And so there was a lot of partnership events that we were going to be doing. And those have had to be essentially canceled, obviously, because of, COVID-19. So, and then finally, just, the last thing here during the shutdown, just wanted to mention, what's going on right now. We have individuals that are out there in the system. They're called street teams. They have the yellow vests. So it's these people, and they're going to have PPE, and they're going to be in person, and they're going to be there to answer any questions for anybody. So that's always a valuable thing to have people out in the system to answer any questions of folks. And then also our bus planning team is going to be able to manage crowds, answer questions, all that stuff too. So really that was my slides, and the best source of information is the website. It's up here on the screen. It's wamata.com/platforms. And there's a lot of good information on here. Wanted to call out that it has maps. It has an FAQ document. There's actually a portal to ask questions on the project. So if you go on the project site in the FAQ area, there's a little field, and you can ask questions about the project on there. And it's also got links to our regional partners. So it's got a link, of course, to Fairfax County and Fairfax Connector, as well as Arlington and other regional partners like VRE. And that was really it. Just wanted to thank Fairfax County for the partnership on this as well. They've been really helpful with us on the communication, and Supervisor Alcorn and Paulchuk has been very helpful as well. So we appreciate the partnership and the outreach. I think I'll stop there, and then also at the appropriate time, I think it was asked that I give a short update on COVID-19, so I can do that whenever I'm ready for that too.
Well, let's see first. I don't see any questions coming in from the group. While we're waiting to see if there are any questions, you want to go ahead and do the COVID-19?
Sure. Yes, this will be really quick.
Wait, hold on just a minute, Greg. I think Shamali was going to say.
Yeah, we do have one question that has come in. It was, can you define ASAP for Silver Line? If all goes well with the tie-in and East Falls Church, when is anticipated reopening? July or August, or when?
So I can't give a date right now. I think that, what we're going to know is a lot of folks are talking with the project team. So I think we're going to know in the next couple of weeks a little more information on this. What's going on right now is that our contractor is Kiewit, and they put in place a number of safety precautions, and we don't know how that's going to impact the schedule yet. So there is social distancing. For example, last summer, there was 100 people in the work crews. And so this year there's not, because we can't do that anymore. And so that's going to have an impact, and we don't know what it's going to do yet. So we need a little bit of time to monitor what that's doing to the schedule. And the second thing that's a little bit difficult to define is the impact on the supply chain. That's something that was mentioned. So we don't quite yet know what it's going to do to that. So those are two major factors. But I'm told that soon we should have a better idea on schedule. And believe me, we get this question a lot. So we're going to have that information out to the region as soon as we can.
Great, thank you.
Catherine, this is Walter. Could I ask Greg a question quickly? Yeah, thank you, Greg, for your presentation. And to follow up on the last question, if we start to see more rapid reopening and employers starting to bring employees back, I know you said you're going to be watching that for shuttle service very closely. Is there also a possibility if there's enough demand coming from the Wheelie metro station area to put a shuttle service, an express to Ballston where rail does pick up? Is that also a possibility?
Yes, that's a possibility, and that's actually a question that I've asked directly to our bus planners. And I'm not a bus planner, so so I ask these questions. So yes, it's something that we've looked at, and I think that they are open to that as demand comes back. They need a little time, from what I'm told, to monitor what's happening right now, monitor the demand, and we also have some additional contracts coming on board on the bus side as far as management. So we're working through those things, but the answer is yes, that's something that's been on our radar for some time.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
Sure.
Shamali, were there any other questions? Because they're not showing up in my box. Otherwise, Greg can go on with the
I don't see any other questions. I know that there was a question that you had. Bruce, are you on?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yeah, I thought you did. So.
Yeah, it's a comment and then a question. Greg, I saw your response yesterday to the question about whether bikes will be transported on the shuttles, and I understand they'll be put underneath. As you know, bikes really aren't meant to be stored that way, and that there could be damage to the bikes when they're being slid in. There's been a lot of people riding bikes, and we think that there will be a lot of folks that will want to start using bikes more for transportation for many reasons. So the question is there a way to pad those bikes somehow when they're being put in the shuttles, or is there any other plan for getting racks on the shuttle buses?
I don't know. I can find out. So I did bring, when that email chain hit yesterday, so the question is really the free summer shuttle buses don't have bike racks. And what's being advised is that if customers that are riding on the free shuttles need to store their bikes, they store it in the below compartment area of the buses where you store also your luggage and your strollers, that sort of thing. And that's what was done last summer. The metro buses, of course, have racks. Those are the regular metro buses, so that's not a problem. But yeah, this was brought up. I don't know, and I did speak with our communications team about getting the word out about what the options are for the buses, but I can ask about the specifics of the storage, and I haven't seen the bus recently, so I don't know, but if they can be stored upright. But I will look into that, Bruce, for you to see what the options are as far as storage and to not, I guess, harm the bikes.
Great. All right,
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. One other quick question. With the Silver Line construction in progress, Marcia was great about sending email alerts out to folks. Is there going to be an option for that kind of an alert to be sent out regarding the work that's being done now?
Yes, thanks for the question. That's a great setup. Thanks for the question. Yeah. So if you go to amada.com/platforms, there's an option to sign up for project updates. So I can go through Shamali maybe just to give her the specific link after the meeting of the place where a customer can go, and you can sign up and give your email, and then you'll get, I think every 2 weeks you'll get an update on the project. So the best place to go is the website, but you can sign up for those, I think it's bi-weekly updates throughout the summer.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Greg, did you want to do your COVID update I think you wanted to make?
Yeah, sure. It'll just be really quick. So if you go to the Metro website on the main page, if you just go there on the top, there's a whole host of information on there on COVID. There's information on all the employees who have tested positive, information on that. There's information on the service, and there's information all about the safety precautions that we've taken. So just a few things to call out. About a month ago or so, a little more than that, I guess at this point, we obviously scaled back service. The system now is from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. on rail on the weekdays, and Metro Bus is on a modified Sunday schedule, and the weekend service is about every 30 minutes on the rail for the Silver Line and the Orange Line. And so, that's been scaled back. As mentioned, there was 19 stations that were closed, and really that's about cleaning. That's about maintaining cleaning supplies. That's the main thrust of that. And just a few other things to call out, and this is all on the website, so I won't go into it in too much detail, but the message really is still right now that Metro is for essential travel only, public health officials, other individuals that need to travel to their work. And as mentioned, I think Tom mentioned the enhanced cleaning, so we're doing the same thing, disinfecting trains, buses, etc. We've distributed necessary PPE, masks and gloves to our employees that need them and the frontline staff. Just like Fairfax Connector, we've implemented rear door boarding, and we've waived the fares on all the buses to protect our frontline employees. We've also created, in the Rail Operations Control Center, we've put some safety measures in there, actual physical barriers for controllers in the ROC. That's important because we have to really protect those employees. Those are like the air traffic control system for us. And so if they get sick, that's obviously a problem. So we're trying to keep them as safe as possible in the OCC. We're also, I think that was mentioned, we're requiring the use of face coverings or masks for passengers when traveling on Metro. As was mentioned by Tom, the governor put that in place in all of Virginia, but that's been in place for Metro and I believe Connector since this past Monday. And we get this question about face coverings. Is Metro going to be providing them? We have a limited supply of them. So, for example, our transit police officers are going to be able to hand out a limited supply of these face coverings, but we don't have the ability to hand it out to everyone. But there is some limited ability to hand them out from our police. And then finally, just as far as our employees, we have mandatory telework for administrative employees such as myself. We've banned visitors from all of our buildings, and we're allowing bus drivers to bypass stops when the bus is too full to allow for safe social distancing. And just the last thing to mention probably is this summer. So on the shuttles this summer, we do get this question. A regular Metro bus obviously has a front and a rear door. There's only a front door on the free summer shuttles because they're coach buses. So we're going to do a few things. We have a sign that's going to be posted in front of all the shuttle stops. So that's out there, and I sent that out to a lot of individuals. So if this group is interested in the sign, I have that. I can share it. And also the staff, the bus staff is going to be limiting the capacity of the buses to no more than 50%. So I want to maintain social distancing on the buses. And when individuals are boarding these coach buses to free shuttles, the operator is actually going to be getting off the bus to protect everyone, both the passengers and the driver. So he will be getting off the bus and then all the passengers are aboard. So that's a safety precaution as well. So obviously, and then of course the cleaning schedule is going to be the same on the shuttles as well. So those are a few things I wanted to mention. Everything is on the website, and there's a lot of really good info on there. And I will stop there for any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions? I think that, Shamali, you're muted, but do you see anything coming through on the question and answer?
So, Greg, when is the Silver Line update going to be available? Somebody just tried to sign up on the platform site, and it only lists updates for the Orange Line stations.
Oh, no, to clarify, I was talking about signing up for updates on the project itself, on the platform project, which is restoration of the Orange Line stations, but now includes a service shutdown on the Silver Line as well. So I guess,
so if they sign up for the Orange Line
specific Silver Line update, there's a project update.
Okay, so if they sign up for the Orange Line update, it will include the Silver Line platform?
It's the entire project.
Okay.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
there is no, just to be clear, we're not working on platforms on the Silver Line. That's not, it's all about the Orange Line for the platforms. And the expanded shutdown zone is obviously because of safety and and also because of MWA doing their work on the tie-in, right?
Great. If it's possible, do you think you could, put some verbiage in there so that people understand that they could get the updates on how, this progress of the Silver Line by signing up for those Orange Line updates?
Sure. I mean, I guess it's probably a matter of branding, I guess, because this is originally, obviously, it was the Orange Line, it was the Orange Line project, which now has become the Orange and Silver Line shutdown area. So it's probably a matter of branding so folks understand exactly what it is that they're getting an update on. But yes, I understand your point. So we can work with the communications people on that.
That would be terrific. That might make it a little more clear for anyone. Thank you.
Okay.
That's the only thing I see. Questions?
Okay, then thank you so much for your presentation, Greg. Very well done. Marcia, I think you have an update on the Silver Line. Are you still with us?
I'm still with you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, good. It's great to follow Greg Potts because he always does a lot of the same things that I was going to say, so I don't have to repeat all of them. It's nice to be with everybody. I hope you have had a productive and not too insane several months. I think I'm going to start with COVID. I was going to just start with project stuff, but I'm going to go on with COVID. The rail project has not been slowed construction-wise at all by the virus. We have put into place a variety of different procedures for employees to follow, depending on what you do. If you're administrative like me and a host of others, we're all teleworking and learning how to go to multiple meetings a day on Zoom. If you are working on the actual construction, you are on site and you are everyone is following specific procedures that spell out exactly the PPE that they have. Some of it is very extensive. Some of the guys look like that they're actually working in a hospital based on the mask and stuff that they are using. Masks are required. Social distance is required. There are specific procedures. If you have a headache, you don't come to work. If you have any kind of symptom at all, you don't come. If you develop a symptom, you report to supervisor immediately and you leave the work site and go get tested. We have had 5 people who have tested positive as of the beginning of last week, most of whom have already returned to work. I don't have last week's figures to know if there was any spurt or increase in any of that. We feel very, very blessed that most of those, I think everyone who has been diagnosed at this point is back on the job. We only had one subcontractor who had some fairly extensive people having to take off to be tested, et cetera, but their work has now resumed full speed. So we feel good about what we're doing. If you are interested in what our guidelines are, we have posted on our website now every COVID plan developed by all of our subcontractors and all of our main contractors, along with the airports authorities, and I think we even have WMATA's up there because we're complying with all of that. The airports authority employees, I know, are not going back to work until after July 4th at the earliest date. Now let's go talk about some positive construction stuff. We're still stuck at 98% construction completion because we just aren't finished yet. We have an awful lot of work to be done before we can turn the project over to Metro. We have responded by letter to WMATA's Office of Inspector General in response to his report that came out several months ago outlining issues that must be resolved before the OIG would recommend that WMATA take over the project. We responded to Neil Knott, who some of you know, who is the person for WMATA who really heads up their operations that take place in our office. Nell is on site. We haven't heard anything from that, but this is a good point to tell you too. Remember, because a lot of talk is going around about the concrete panels that we've been talking about for 3 years now. The OIG report did not cover the concrete panels. We are still expecting to get a separate OIG report on the panels. At this point with the panels, we know the Inspector General is bringing in a special team from New York who has not been able to come here because of quarantine issues outstanding to visually inspect all 1,700 of the panels that are in the 5 at-grade stations. We do not yet know when that contractor will be able to have a team here. But we'll keep an eye on that and keep you posted. Really good news for us is the work Greg Potter mentioned is the tie-in work that's necessary at the Wheelie Reston Station was going to require 13 weekend shutdowns of service. And there was support within the community and some of our partners to try to get a longer shutdown. Well, the platform work that WMATA needs to do tied in beautifully for this, and we are in the final stages of getting documents approved, which would allow Capital Rail constructors, our main construction crews, to get into the Wheelie Station area and start working between sometime now. It looks like it was supposed to start June 3rd. It looks like it may be a couple of days after that. We have until July 30th to finish, and we have a commitment to Metro to make sure that that work is done during that time frame. That is to facilitate, in case Metro is finished with its platform work on the Orange Line stations and could reopen the Silver Line stations earlier, as soon as possible. So we are going to have a time crunch. We anticipate that our contractors will be working some double shifts and weekend work to get that done, but but everything will be shut down to let that work be done. So that should speed things up. Other work you've heard about is we had some trouble with the rail ties, where we have brought in tamping machines that are supposed to help level out some tracks at 13 different switches along the Silver Line Phase 2. That tamping has been successful at one station. We're almost done with 3 of the stations and 1 more to go, but the 3 station results aren't quite as positive as we thought they had hoped that they might be, and it looks like we're going to be replacing some rail ties out on the line. We do not know how many yet, but we have taken the steps yesterday to go ahead and tell the contractor to order the new rail ties because they have to be manufactured in Ohio, and we're going to have people on site in Ohio when they're made to make sure we don't have any of the same problems we have with some of the others. And people are a little reluctant for who wants to volunteer right now to go into the portion of Ohio where they're made, which is a very hot spot on the COVID maps these days. Let's see. Out at Dulles Airport, if you've been to the airport lately, and I don't think many people have because nobody wants to fly, but the station itself is up and very visible, but that station has an architectural element that makes it reflect the architectural style of the main terminal at the airport. And it is a large glass windscreen, and all the welding work and 20 columns have been put into place, and we're getting ready to be able to start installation of the glass panels as soon as they arrive, probably now closer to the end of June because of bad problems for the manufacturer with their labor force. Out at the rail yard, where we have had some ongoing problems, and the contractor just is having a hard time learning how to do what he is supposed to do or executing what he's supposed to do. But one of the issues you've heard about the most probably is that the ballast, the the rock that's between the tracks and in the rail yard is what's called fouled. That means there's too much broken up fibers of the rock that will allow flooding in the area. So they have to replace all the ballast in the yard. That was part of the OIG's report. They don't have a schedule yet. They have been directed to do it. We're hoping that they can get going on that work as soon as possible. We are working with WMATA on a daily basis to make sure we resolve our outstanding issues with them, and they have been very supportive and very helpful. We all have a common goal of getting this open as soon as possible. I don't talk dates like Greg said. He doesn't talk dates. I don't talk dates because the opening of the project is dependent on what WMATA says, and they'll set the date. We have a goal for construction to hope that we can wind this up around the end of this year or the first of next year, and that would facilitate, that would ease the WMATA's decision to open for service. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. And I would love to have had pictures, but my technology abilities to operate this from my dining room still hasn't gotten that far along, and I will provide some pictures of the latest work that the supervisor's office can use as they would like. I will tell you that some of the replacement tie work will be taking place near the Herndon station and near the Ashburn station and in between. We don't know when that work would be starting. Let me see, I made notes, and because I didn't try to create a presentation. Oh, I know. For the folks who are interested in the eastern edge of the Hunter Mill District, you all know that we've been doing some finishing up work for phase 1 along Route 7 in Tyson's Corner for 2.5 years now. This is replacing drains, making the ramps in and out of businesses more handicapped accessible. That work has been speeded up by the lack of traffic in Tyson's over the last several months, and we are almost finished. We've basically done east and west from 123 to the toll road. I think we've got from Tyco Road to the toll road still to finish, but we're finally wrapping up that work, and we've got to do that with very little business interruption. I'll be happy to answer questions that anybody has.
Hey, Shamali, you're unmuted.
I don't see any questions coming up in the Q&A.
Shamali, this is Michael Cooper. Can you hear me for a moment?
Yes.
So I'm just going to take this opportunity for this group. And first of all, thank you, Supervisor Alcorn and Shamali Catherine, for inviting Marcia and myself to today's meeting. I also want to just briefly touch on kind of what's going on with Dulles Airport real quick, since this is a transportation forum. And just to let you know that Reagan National and Dulles International remain open and fully operational, with our passenger throughput at TSA checkpoints increasing over the recent Memorial Day holiday weekend. But basically, the message going forward, as Marcia mentioned, is not many people are flying, and not many people are flying around the country. Not many people are flying through our airports or in any of Virginia's airports. Passengers levels remain down 90% plus year over year. In some places, 97, 98% down year over year. And so we are focused on recovery, and our recovery planning process continues to evolve with our airports. We are focused on employee and traveler safety. And from the get-go, that has been our primary focus from the COVID environment. While we don't anticipate any sustained increases in passenger levels in the immediate future, this is going to be a long haul for Dulles and Reagan National Airport to dig out, and aviation in Virginia and across the nation as a whole. dig out from. There'll be a slow return to service maybe by the end of this year, but it'll be 2021, 2022 before we're going to see passenger levels returning to our nation's airports, including Dulles, depending on how COVID acts going forward. So case in point, we're moving into phase 1 here in Northern Virginia. Looks like starting Friday. And if 2 or 3 weeks from now, the governor sees an uptick in COVID outbreak or any other matter that he feels the need to shut down again, then we're going to be reducing our windup. So you're finally, and in closing, you're probably aware that there's federal travel restrictions from various COVID-heavy international arrivals. Basically, the federal government established now what is 13 funnel airports nationwide, where if you come from certain COVID outbreak countries like China and Spain and anything in Europe right now, aircraft arrival locations to the United States are funneled through 13 of the nation's airports, of which Dulles is one. And just to give you some assurance and reassurance, at Dulles, and I've seen this with my own eyes with a London flight coming in just before we all went on telework, but there is extensive protocols in place for arriving passengers from COVID-heavy countries. We are working very, very close with the Department of Homeland Security and the Centers for Disease Control and the Transportation Security Agency and all of our federal partners. Most of what's going on at Dulles occurs behind the scenes if you're coming from those countries. So you may have heard or seen media reports that said, oh, I came to such and such airport, maybe Dulles, maybe another one, and nobody stopped me, nobody blah, blah, blah. Nobody took my temperature or whatever. And that's because everything that's coming from the COVID-heavy countries really is happening in a separate channel, in a separate part of the airport. So basically, folks arriving to the Northern Virginia area are basically in quarantine, if you will, from the moment they exit the plane until they go through the federal partners' protocols that are outside of Dulles Airport. So just to give some assurance that there are very healthy and extensive protocols in place, and we are focusing on the recovery process, and it's going to be a long time coming till we get to where we were before. So thank you for the moment to offer this little airports update. And if you have any questions, Marcia and I remain available. Thank you again, Supervisor Alcorn, for the forum.
Thank you for that update. That was good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Michael. I don't see the screen. Shamali, do we have any questions that have come through the chat function or the question and answer function?
I do not see any questions in that. Wait, there's something in chat. Let me check that. Allison Grauman has a question. Parent from Wolf Trap Elementary PTA. Thank you for keeping us up to date during this time. I have a question for Chris Wells. What is the status of the Beulah Talisman crosswalk design and schedule? These are questions, general questions. Do you want to go to those, or do you want to? Is there any last bit from?
I want to see if there are any questions for the last two speakers, and then we'll go to general questions. So, if any of you that are participating or on my attendee list have a question for the last for Michael or Marcia on the rail, or you'll be doing them via email. All right. Do you see anything, Shamali?
Nothing else has come up.
Okay. And I guess the best format is to go ahead, unless any of the presenters have something else they'd like to present, I will go to the attendee list. So do any of the presenters, do you have any last minute comments that you felt that you needed to make, or frankly, this might be a good time for us to do announcements if anybody has a future meeting or something that you need to announce that you didn't include in your presentation. I don't see anybody unmuting, so it must not be happening. All right, Shamali, do you want to go to,
Yeah, so
Allison had the question, correct? Or
so
was it?
yeah, so I'll, Allison, I'm going to unmute you, and you can go ahead and ask your question to Chris Wells. Okay, you should be unmuted now. Allison, are you there?
She's still muted.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There we go. Sorry about that. Are you muted? Unmuted now.
I think, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks. I just typed it in because I thought it would that's how it would be done. Hello, Chris. Thanks, everyone. And here, of course, from Wolf Trap Elementary. Thank you for keeping us up to date. And I just wondered the status of the Beulah Talisman crosswalk at Wolf Trap Elementary, and if the design will be available for us to see. And I was also happy to see that the 2020 paving plan includes Beulah Road for the latex seal, and just curious about the status of the road diet scheduled for that. So thank you.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Allison. So on there's the two separate activities are the Safe Routes to School project, which you all are the champions, neighborhood champions for, and the paving. The Safe Routes to School project on our schedule, the notes say that the survey has been completed and we've been in design since the beginning of the year, or end of last year. The schedule is laid out that construction would be in August of 2022, but that's tentative at this point. Actually, typically we try and do construction at a school in the summer rather than at the beginning of school. So I'll pass that on to the engineers. The other, I know you had asked about seeing the design, and I have not seen the design, but it's possible my staff has, because we've been reviewing it in combination with the paving. So we have coordinated the VDOT pavings, the striping that goes with the VDOT paving, so that it works with the design of our project. And we've also looked at the crosswalk at Abbotsford, and I believe we were able to successfully get a crosswalk at Abbotsford. So that's my recollection, but I can follow up, and if I'm mistaken, get back through Shamali to you guys.
Great. Allison, did that answer your question okay?
Yes, I think so. Thanks, Chris.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Rick Hamilton, you have your hand up, so I'm going to unmute you. Rick, did you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. First, a quick thanks to somebody, I'm not sure who. We've had some sidewalk repair in Polo Fields. I discovered several years ago that the sidewalks are perhaps owned by at least two entities, and so I'm not sure who did them, but we're thankful for that. Secondly, last recorded value information on the grade separated interchange at Sunrise Valley and Fairfax County Parkway. Tom Bashadny, I think it was, commented that they were thinking now that there may be a less impactful design, impactful that is to the residents of Polo Fields in particular. And I just wondered if there's any update on any design work that's going on with regard to the grade separated interchange.
This is Tom Bashadny. Can you hear me?
I can, thanks.
Okay. The grade separation project is not funded, so there is no design work that is being advanced on the grade separation right now. There is some work that's being done on the approach from the east side to change the lane configuration there so that the traffic can move a little bit better approaching the the Parkway from Sunrise Valley on the east side, and the Airports Authority, as part of the rail project, did make some changes on the westbound approach to Fairfax County Parkway. But in terms of the interchange, the future interchange, there is no ongoing design for that project right now.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And then finally, Shamli, I sent you a bunch of questions about paving, as you know, and I appreciate your response. You know, we're just really kind of confused. We've never seen the process written down anywhere. We don't know what happens to unapproved requests. Polo Fields has some streets that haven't been touched in decades. And so we're just trying to understand what the process is. Do we have to resubmit every year if our project isn't funded? So what happens to the unapproved requests every year? Does anybody keep count of how many times a project has been unapproved or not approved? And then we've also heard rumors that that the more requests for a particular road paving project, the better. I'm not quite sure I understand why that should be, because you know, they're all important to us. So anyway, I don't know if we need to take everybody's time, but I would like at some point some response to the questions in writing, just so we can kind of better understand how best to deal with that process.
Steve, do you want to jump in on this question?
Yeah, I can answer it generally in that, we do have a pavement condition map as well in the virginiaroads.org. Whether or not a project for resurfacing or repair of some sort gets into that is done on an annual basis. And generally, pavement will continue to worsen at generally the same rates, but there are times where some will accelerate and become worse much quicker, much faster than others. So each year we reevaluate what the top candidates are for falling into that pavement program, dependent upon where it ranks. To answer the question about resubmitting, certainly put in the request. We'll add it in as one of those that we'll look at. I can't say no. The number of requests isn't really as important. It's more that we just get it on our list to look at and consider. But we do it based on an engineering method of determining which are the worst conditions, and with the budget that we have, we run out doing as much as we can each season.
And Rick, I know I've addressed this with you, and I'll get you some more information, as you said, in writing and process with VDOT's process in there. But from the supervisor standpoint, anytime we get a request from a constituent, I go out and take a look at the road myself. If I notice anything, that's glaring, I take photos as needed, and then we'll submit that to VDOT. But this summer, I am planning in this office to actually drive every single road in Henry Mill District to get a good feel for all the road areas, and overlaying that with VDOT's map of roads that they know have not seen attention in a little while, to see where the hot spots might be. So I concur with Steve that the number of requests is not really that important. Obviously, putting one in so that we can make sure we highlight that area to take a look at is very helpful to us.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate your efforts on our behalf for sure. Some of these things are not hazards in the sense that there's big cracks or anything, but we have streets that have grass growing in the cracks and so forth, and that just detracts from the look and the neighborhood, and that's important as well as safety issues, although the safety issues are obviously paramount. But do appreciate your concerns and your efforts on our behalf.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Shamali, is there a question or chat from either Allison or Jeff? Because I have little exclamation points that came up for them.
No, I think that's something else. What I'm going to do is just go down the list and call on people and see if they have any further questions.
Okay.
So, Lynn Brown, I'm going to unmute you. And do you have any questions?
No, I'm good at the minute. Thanks very much, Shamali.
Great, thanks. Mike McDermott, I am unmuting you. Do you have any questions? Whoops.
I'm good.
Okay, great. I don't know if Rob Whitfield is on the line. Rob, are you there? Do you have any questions? Okay, he may not be. Rob, are you there? Do you have any?
I am trying to get this thing. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm down in Stafford County, so.
Well, do you have any questions at this time?
No questions at this time. I guess the main thing is the financial situation with MATA and the ongoing subsidies required, jurisdictional subsidies. But that's not for this meeting. That's for a future meeting.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
All right, moving back up. Let's see. Allison is. I'll unmute you again. Allison, did you have any more questions?
No, thank you. No.
Okay. And who else did I not call on? Jeff. Jeff Anderson, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just a general question. Been riding around Reston and noticed there's been quite a few cars in bike lanes, parking bike lanes as they park to get access to the trail system in Reston. Don't know if I didn't have my phone with me to call police to have them come over, but it would be good if police, if they're just driving around, make sure that those cars don't park there and giving them a warning or a ticket. I don't know if Bruce has seen that, but I noticed it.
I'll be happy to pass that on to the Reston Police Department. I have a meeting with them this afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Shuttle?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Bruce again. If you could pass on just the need for speed enforcement. I'm getting ready to report a couple of streets, Ridge Heights and Lawyers Road, where there's no bike lanes. I missed the first part of what Jeff said, but just speeds seem to be much higher now that there's less traffic, and so I know they're busy, but that's needed.
Yeah, the other question had to do with people parking in bike lanes. So I'll go ahead and pass both of those issues on, speeding and parking in bike lanes.
Thanks.
Great.
And there were two call-in users. Do we have the names on those two call-in?
One is Tom Bashadny. I'm unmuting the other one. So if you are a call-in user with, let's see, I don't know if I can see your number. If you called in on the phone, I've unmuted you if you'd like to ask a question. 703-904 number?
Yes.
Did you have any questions?
I do. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. If you just identify your name and then go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, it's Robert Bossard. I'm in Polo Fields.
Great.
Okay, I just want to follow up with Rick and Hamilton talking about the pavement program and for VDOT. I guess my question is that I've been in Polo Fields for a long time, and during that time I noticed that one road adjacent to to Coastbrook was paved and not ours. So when I'm listening to the methodology of how certain roads are paved and others are not, I don't understand really the process that got Tournament paved and not Coast Brook, if that makes sense.
Stephen, did you catch that question?
Yes, I did. And I guess I think the best thing to do is we'll put together some information and work through Supervisor Alcorn's office to provide both information and maybe links to further information about that done. In general, it's a rating system. And as like I was speaking to earlier, they go on a rating scale every year. Many of those that get done fall off the list, obviously. Others move up on the list, but then others yet that perhaps were not as high on the list occasionally have to be moved up because for some reason that rating has changed. And it's a rather complicated, but it does look at all the things from cracking and distressed from icing and thawing and drainage and various things that do affect it. But we can provide some additional, more detailed information.
Well, you know, Walter Alcorn came by and we did a walk through Coast Brook. And, you know, whatever you're saying, okay, I can't dispute that. But I've been around here a long time, and I don't know what process you use and whether we fall up on the list, down on the list, and whatnot. Seems to me in 20-some years you should be able to have a road paved after paying taxes in Fairfax County. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I travel a lot of the roads and whatnot, and I don't want to get into the minutiae of what road was paved and not paved and how they were placed on the list. But I do know there's no way that a certain development in Fairfax County gets priority over Coast Brook when they just build houses. So, I mean, whatever process is being used, I don't think is fair. And in my opinion, I don't believe the process, whatever is being used, benefit Polo Fields.
Well, you know, I can't speak for what's happened progressively each year over the last, 20 years. Definitely, we've been through some cycles over the years where we've had various budget hits, and certainly we work within the budget that we have to deal with the worst conditions. But we will take a look at it. If you would provide your information through Supervisor Alcorn's office, and we'll work with them to look at yours again and see where that falls, and also provide the information that you're asking for in greater detail. I have our pavement engineers put some of that information together.
Well, I've done that.
Yeah, and Robert, we do have the pictures that Supervisor Alcorn took when he visited out in your area, and I've taken some subsequent pictures as well. So we'll compile all that information. I'll make sure I have all of your input from the neighborhood and get that over to VDOT.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Molly.
Okay, I see a couple of hands up. So Jeff Anderson.
Hey, yeah, I got another question. We at FAB noticed that FCDOT and VDOT are going to open up a street in Tysons to provide more space for walking and biking in that area. I don't know if there was anything thought about in Hunter Mill district, maybe in the Reston Town Center, though I think that's a private road. But if there was any other ideas, particularly, I guess, aimed at you, Supervisor Alcorn, and what your thoughts were on that. Thanks.
So maybe I'll just jump in. This is Tom Bashadny first. We did look at a variety of streets around the county, and we wanted to start with one to demonstrate that it can be done and figure out all the ins and outs of how it can be done. And we've gotten to the endpoint in Tysons. There'll be an announcement coming out later today with all the specifics, but we want to see how this one works and then there are opportunities to consider other locations around the county. But we want to test it out first, since it hasn't been done before in Fairfax, in VDOT territory, and we've learned a lot through the process. I'll just say that.
Great question.
Okay, Tom, I have a quick question to follow up on that. So if this is considered a pilot in Tysons, what is the length of time before you review the process?
We're going to be reviewing, from day one, essentially, is seeing how it works, see how people are using it, see how people are reacting to it, people that are in cars as well. And, it'll be an ongoing evaluation. A lot does depend on how quickly things reopen, too. We'll see what happens following stage one, starting on Friday. And so there's a lot of variables that we'll be looking at.
All right, thank you.
I see another hand up. Rick Hamilton, do you have another question? Your hand's
I do have a quick one. Sorry, I forgot earlier. A couple years ago or more, we had a very serious accident at eastbound Sunrise Valley in Hitchcock. Two school children waiting for a bus were almost hit, and a resident's car was totaled as a result of a woman traveling too fast in her car, being distracted. That intersection has been a problem over the years. We've had at least 3 serious accidents there, and nobody ever followed up with a possible solution. One was, I can't remember the term, super elevated. Is that a term where you actually change the slope on the outside of the curve to at least slow a car down if they're speeding at that intersection? We suggested guardrails. We were told that those don't help, and so forth. So if somebody could go back and revisit that while you're doing your survey, it will be eastbound on Sunrise Valley at Hitchcock. That's the problem intersection, and I have some pictures of damage done there over the years if you'd be interested. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, great.
Okay, well, I will say that even though we started a few minutes late, I want to respect people's time. It's 10 o'clock, or it's a few minutes after 10. So I think I'm going to, if there are any more announcements, because announcements are important, I do want people to be announcing anything. The 2 things that I want to make sure we get done before we hang up. One is, do we have a proposed date for our next meeting? And the other would be, are there any announcements of meetings or relevant dates that we need to be paying attention to as citizens before our next meeting?
Our next meeting is scheduled for July 29th, I believe. Is that right? Let me double check that date. As I check on that date, Supervisor Alcorn had to hop off. Just wanted to know if there were any updates from F on the priorities plan.
Okay,
Emily, this is Tom Bashadny. No, there are no updates at this point. We're still waiting for revised funding information from a number of our funding partners, but in terms of the projects that have already been approved, they are moving forward. Once we get revised revenue estimates from our various funding partners, we'll be coming back to the board probably sometime this fall with potentially revisions to the transportation priority plan. But at the moment, there are no updates.
Okay, great. Yes, the date confirmed for the next 100-mile Transportation Advisory Council is on July 29th. We still have it from 8 to 10. I'm anticipating that this next one it may also be virtual. We'll notify you whether we'll be able to meet in person come that time. But if this format works well, then we might continue with this.
All right, this works for me. Well, absent any more announcements, and you said Walter had to hop off?
He did. He had
Okay.
to head out to another meeting.
Okay, no, that's fine. I know we were scheduled till 10 a.m. So if anyone has anything to add, tell me now. Otherwise, we're going to bring this to the close. I wanted to thank everyone who participated today, both the presenters and the people that joined us as attendees. It's an interesting format. It's working better than kind of I expected. I will point out that I appreciate the fact that staff members, we did do a dry run yesterday. You might not be able to tell, but we did. So thank you to Shamali and Jose and Chris for joining us yesterday afternoon so we could make sure that we got rid of most of the technical glitches. And I think it worked quite well. So my thanks to Shamali and Jose for pulling this one off.
You're quite welcome. Thank you to everybody for attending. And, I know we got a little bit of a late start as we kind of worked through getting everybody logged on at the beginning. But as we get better at this will run smoother.
Absolutely. And I will ask that when we tape this and present it to the when the tape goes out, because you did record this and you are putting it out, I hope it does start at the beginning of the meeting instead of 7:30 to 8 where we were doing a lot of.
No. It starts when Supervisor Alcorn started speaking. So, and
okay. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, we'll see you all in July, if not before.